Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the practical session of lesson number 5.
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق.
The purpose behind this session really is to reinforce what we have been learning in the main lesson. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, الذي علم بالقلم, he who taught by the use of pen. So for us to learn something, the using of the pen is absolutely essential. You will listen, you will see the lectures inshallah ta'ala, but until and unless you're making the notes that I'm telling you to make, I'm guiding you inshallah ta'ala to practice again. Why? Because we want to retain this knowledge so we can build upon it. So using the pen is absolutely critical in our study. So we need to start doing practice of everything that we learn in the way inshallah I'm guiding you in the main lesson themselves. Why is practice important? Like anything in life, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And that is why practice. This is the only way to acquire knowledge. The golden rules for learning are: I listen, I forget; I see, I remember; I practice, I learn; I teach, I master. So it is only really at the moment of practice that learning really begins. Yes, we do receive information through listening. Yes, we do receive information through seeing. But when it comes to doing, that's when it starts sticking in our database or in our internal brain. So we can start using that knowledge again and again. So practice is absolutely critical for our success. The detached Rafa pronouns. The 14 detached pronouns are on the screen that you can see. They're subject pronouns, therefore they're called Rafa pronouns, and they're only used in Rafa status. So again, these 14 and their importance of learning them. Why? Because they're used almost 1400 times in the Quran. So you can see huwa is used 481, hum is used 444, and you can see anta being used 81, antum 135, etc., etc., etc. So they're absolutely critical. I hope you followed my instructions. You've written some of them down, at least, inshallah. If you write this down 3 times, maybe once on a Monday, once on a Wednesday, once on a Friday, with some break in between, just 5-10 minutes of your time, inshallah, and you remember them for life. They're going to form a very important part of your Quranic Arabic study. But not only that, if you go on to study Arabic further, you will find this investment of time in memorizing the 14 pronouns as one of the greatest investments that you made, along with the Muslim table. The other reasons the pronouns are very, very important in Arabic when it comes to studying of the verbs. If you know the pronouns well, then the verb study will become relatively easy for you. Why? Because in every verb in Arabic, there's an embedded pronoun. And these 14 positions that we are doing now, inshallah, is going to help you reinforce that knowledge. So when it comes to verbs, you'll be able to learn them quicker. Task for you. What I'd like you to do is redesign this table either using a pencil or a ruler in your notebook and make photocopies if you can. And we're going to fill these boxes up, inshallah, with the pronouns. You'll find exactly the same table very useful for you when it comes to studying verbs also, as we'll be using this exact same table for studying verbs. And verbs are, of course, very, very important in any language. So please invest some time in redesigning this table, either on a computer or by a ruler and a pencil, inshallah, that will do. As long as we get the job done, that's the most important thing. So we're going to now use our technique that we mentioned earlier called total physical interaction, which is developed by Dr. Abdulaziz, and it's very, very effective for learning pronouns. So we're going to practice, inshallah ta'ala, the pronouns using TPI. So let's practice the pronouns with you just once so that you can get used to how to do that. Again, I'm using TPI, total physical interaction, developed by Dr. Abdulaziz of Understand Quran Academy. Is very, very effective for learning the pronouns. So this is my right hand and this is my left hand. Just note that. So I'm going to start with my right hand. And it's very important you look straight on as you're speaking to somebody and you point this way. Don't look this way. Just point this way as if you're talking about somebody. The hand should be at your waist level and stretched. But because of the screen, I'm just going to bring it here so you can see my finger clearly, inshallah. So let's practice. We're going to begin with huwa, he, huma, they, hum, they. So huma, note is 2, hum is 3 or more. Just the Arabic, huwa, huma, hum. Huwa, huma, hum. Huwa, huma, hum. So practice that in cycles of 3. Then we have the feminine. This time I'm going to use my left hand. So this is my left hand. My right hand is here. I'll keep that static, inshallah. So let's practice that. You can see my hand here, hopefully, inshallah. So we have hiya, huma, hunna. Hiya, she, huma, they, hunna, they. So let's do it one more time. Hiya, huma, hunna. Hiya, huma, hunna. Again, look straight when you're doing it. I'm just moving my hand because of the camera, inshallah, to make it easy for you to see. Masculine pronouns now for you. Okay, there are 6 yous, as you know from the lesson earlier. So let's do them, inshallah ta'ala. One finger pointing straight as if I'm speaking to you. So it will be one finger like so. Anta, antuma, antum. Antuma 2, antum 4 fingers, just to show it's 3 or more. So again, do it one more time. Anta, antuma, antum. Anta, antuma, antum. Anta, antuma, antum. Now let's practice the feminine version of you. Again, there are 3 feminine, 3 masculine. We've just done those, inshallah. So anti, antuma, antunna. Anti, antuma, antunna. Anti, antuma, antunna. And of course, then the last 2, which are the personal first person pronouns. Ana, I, nahnu, we. Ana, I, nahnu, we. Ana, I, nahnu, we. Again, you can see how quickly you need to practice and keep on revising, inshallah, a few times. So if you do this exercise maybe 3 times a day for the next 3-4 days, the whole 14 pronouns will become second nature to you. I'm not asking you to spend hours studying, just 2-3 minutes, inshallah, go through the whole drill. I'm going to do the whole 14 in one go, so you can see the kind of speed that you need to be acquiring very, very shortly, inshallah ta'ala, through this practice. So daily practice of reading, using the hand sign TPI, and at least 3 times writing the whole chart out. Inshallah, give a day or so in between. And then soon you can write it out without looking at any text. You can write it down by yourself, all 14 of them, check your answers, and now you've memorized them, inshallah. Give it a week's break and do it one more time, and it'll be permanent knowledge for you for the rest of your life, and it'll be a great investment. So I'm going to do the whole 14 with you, inshallah. Ready? Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. Ana, nahnu. Let's do the whole 14 fast. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. Ana, nahnu. This is the speed. Even faster than that you can acquire, inshallah, without making any mistakes. Using the detached rafa pronouns. Before I continue, I always try to put a dua at the end on a slide where possible, inshallah, to remind you that if you are facing any difficulty while studying Arabic, you need to go ask Allah Azza wa Jal. Make dua. It is Allah who has made the learning of Arabic easy for us to understand Quran. So if there are difficulties we are facing, ask Allah to remove those difficulties from us, whatever they may be, and Allah is the one who answers our dua. So how are they used in nominal sentences? You've seen this already, alhamdulillah. We've seen this right from the beginning of our study. We said, Huwa muallimun. He is a teacher. Now, if you go back and review lesson number 2, you'll be able to see all the rules of forming a sentence are being fulfilled here. There are 2 parts, mubtada and khabar. The mubtada needs to be definite and in the rafa status, which you can see here. And you can see also the khabar is indefinite and in the rafa status. Of course, the number and gender need to match, as you know. So huwa muallimun matches all our condition of the 4 properties: definiteness, being definite, indefinite, i'rab being rafa, and of course the gender and the number needs to match. So that's why we can form sentences simply in Arabic saying huwa muallimun, he is a teacher. We don't need anything else in Arabic. And as you know already, after many repetition, there is no word in Arabic for is, am, or a. You need to find the mubtada and the khabar and then put that in according to the rules of the English language. So therefore, it's very easy to make sentences in Arabic. Huwa muallimun. In English, I have to say he is a teacher, but in Arabic, I fulfilled all the condition of the sentence. And therefore, you can make sentences with the 14 pronouns very, very easily. All you need to know, you need to match the number and the gender. So huwa muslimun, you will say huwa muslimun, but you have to say hiya muslimatun. And again, you will say antum muslimuna, you are all Muslims. If you're talking to females, you say antunna muslimatun. So these are the only things you have to remember. And therefore, we do the same thing in English. You don't say in English, for example, he is a boy, and you don't say they is a boy. You say they are boys. So again, these are things you do in English. So there's nothing complex here, inshallah ta'ala, as far as forming sentences in Arabic is concerned. So I have a task for you now to do. I want you to do exactly the same thing with the word Muslim that I've done on the screen. In your own time, please, with the word mu'min, mu'minun, abidun, and salihun. And just in case you've forgotten their meanings, mu'minun means a believer, abidun means a worshipper. It's also used for common name amongst Muslims, and salihun also means a pious person, righteous person. Here's one I prepared for you earlier, so you can see the answers yourself, inshallah, how it should be done. So using the table, using a pencil or a pen, write out these 14 sentences using mu'min, abid, and salih as examples. Inshallah, I've done one on the screen for you. Now we're going to look at some additional rules regarding forming jumla ismiya, nominal sentences, where the predicate, the khabar, can be definite. Alhamdulillah, so far we're familiar with the basic structure of the sentence, in which the subject is definite, like we can see here, and rafa. And the predicate is indefinite and in the rafa. Of course, the gender and the number is matching. This translation of that sentence is, I am a student. Now, there are circumstances, the predicate, where the predicate can be definite. And one of them is when the subject is definite. So we have here, huwa hamidun. I hope you can by now recognize without any prompting from me that huwa is definite and in the rafa. And also my predicate, hamidun, is a proper noun. It is also definite and it is also in the rafa status. So you can see that, alhamdulillah, very, very clear. So we have two definite, subject definite and the predicate definite. This is allowed in Arabic. There are many reasons why. We don't want to go into deep grammar, but basically a pronoun, normally in a sentence, whenever you see it, you can safely assume it to be a subject, because it cannot be a part of a descriptive phrase and other things. So mainly speaking, when you have the subject as a pronoun, you can have a definite predicate. Here, example, huwa hamidun, he is Hamid. Please note that exception. It is not really exception. I call it flexing the rules, because you need to flex the rules. Sometimes every rule has an exception. The predicate can also be definite with alif lam if the subject is a pronoun. So here we have hiya al muallimatu. Hiya al muallimatu. She is the teacher. She is the teacher. Please again note, I'm sure by now it's very easy for you to say that this is definite, this is rafa, this is definite, and this is also in the rafa status. So very, very easy for you to recognize that this is the case. So when the pronoun is the subject, the predicate can be definite, as in, for example, proper noun, hamidun, or it can be definite here, as in with al, alif lam, which we've done many, many times, which makes it definite, al muallimatu. So these are two additional rules, inshallah, which will help you recognize many sentences in the Quran. For example, you'll find in Surah Yusuf, Yusuf alayhi salam saying, Ana Yusuf, I am Yusuf, wa hadha akhi, and this is my brother. So again, you learn these things, inshallah ta'ala, as we go on. So, hiya al-muallimatu, she is a teacher, huwa hamidun, he is Hamid. More than one khabar, predicate in a sentence. Please take a look at this text here now. You should be able to now figure out, we have huwa first, we have al afterwards. So this is a sentence, even though there are two definites together. Then we also have another word begin with al. So we have huwa samiul alim. Huwa samiul alim. So how do we understand this? We say the huwa is your subject, and we have here predicate, khabar. Khabar number one and khabar number two. Of course, you can have more than two khabars. This is also possible in English. You can have more than one predicate, but you can only have one subject. So normally, there's only one subject in the sentence, and you can have more than one predicate. So here is an example, and this is quite extensively used in the Quran. Huwa samiul alim, and you will see that in attributes of Allah. Attributes of Allah in generally in the Quran are always in pairs. Always in pairs. There are occasions, of course, there are two, but there are also occasions 4 and even 8 in one occasion in the Quran. So these two words are, of course, are attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. So you will translate them. He is all hearing, all knowing. Here's another example. Again, very common structure in the Quran. Here we have the proper noun, of course, Allah, and you have alimun, hakimun. Allah is all knowing, all wise. Again, then you can see the attributes of Allah coming in pairs. So we have mubtada, which is the word Allah, lafz jalala, and then we have khabar number 1 and khabar number 2. So this is very common in Arabic. I've given you a list here of the most common ones used in the Quran with the word Allah. Of course, lafz jalala there first, and then you have 2, maybe 4, or even, one occasion 8 attributes of Allah coming. And this is something you need to recognize. So you can have more than one khabar. We will not say, for example, the word Hakim is an is a description or a sifa of the word Alim, because it clearly isn't in the sentence, even from the English. So you will say in here, khabar 1, khabar 2. And this is quite a common structure in the Quran. The clash of 2 sukoons. Take a close look at the 14 pronouns. All of them, except for 2, I'll give you the hint. They all end with some vowel sound. There are 2 of them that ends with a sukoon. Identify which 2 those are. If you haven't guessed them, they are hum and antum. Hum and antum. Please note, they end with sukoon. At the end, there is no vowel. There is no vowel at the end of them. All the others, ana, nahnu, anti, anta, antuma, they all end with a vowel sound, whereas these 2 end with a sukoon. And this leads to a certain problem when it comes to reading. To illustrate this, take a close look at the 2 sentences I have on the screen. In the first one, I have antum al-muslimuna. In the second one, I have hum al-muslimuna. No problem so far. However, there is a big problem in reading these together. What I've got here is a situation which I call the clash of 2 sukoons. Because if you read them together, you have a problem. As you know, in front of al, there is the hamzatul wasl. Hamzatul wasl is never read if something is before it. So the first letter that I'm actually reading from after antum will be beginning with lam, which is a sukoon. The same problem I have here. So I've got 2 sukoons, one on the last letter of the word and one on the first letter that I'm pronouncing of the next word. This is in Arabic called iltiqa'us sakinain. They call it the meeting of 2 sukoons. I call it the clash of 2 sukoons. You can't simply read this in Arabic. So this happens quite often. So what do? Normally, you put a kasra on the last letter and then you read it. But with these 2 pronouns, the reading rules is as follows. To read these pronouns correctly, you put a dhamma at the end. So you'll say humul muslimuna, antumul muslimuna. So please note, these 2 pronouns will take a dhamma at the end to help you pronounce it correctly. So you will read humul muslimuna, antumul muslimuna. And this is what happens when the 2 sukoons come together with these pronouns, both ending with sukoon, just to avoid the reading. So in the Quran, you'll find them with dhamma, and you might think it's a different word. No, it is not a different word. It's exactly the same as antum and hum. The reason why the dhamma is there to help you to read correctly. Of course, in modern Arabic, you will not see them. You're supposed to know this rule. So I'm sharing this another rule with you, inshallah, which will facilitate your reading correctly of these pronouns in sentences where the next word begins with a sukoon. So here are 2 examples from the Quran. So you can see, inshallah ta'ala, is quite frequent, and I'm sharing these with you. So the first one we have, Wallahu al-ghaniyyu wa antumul fuqara. So you can see very easily that the antum has a dhamma, even though it's supposed to have a sukoon. The reason why, because of the clash of 2 sukoons. Please note that. And of course, Surah Al-Baqarah, I'm sure you know this ayah, wa ulaika humul muflihun. And you can see humul, not hum, humul muflihun. 2 examples for Quran. I'm sure you'll find many more. So please be aware of using antum and hum. These are the changes that you will see in the Quran. Forming more complex sentences. How do you ask questions in Arabic? Well, one way is to add a or hal. They're very frequently used in the Quran, 500 times, almost 90 times in the Quran for hal. So very, very important. Let's see how they're used in Arabic. A and hal, please note, they're used to ask a question where you expect a yes or no answer. Of course, yes is na'am in Arabic and no is la. We'll look at that in a second. So the point here is that the questions you ask require a yes or no answer. If I say to you, how are you? You will not reply yes or no. If I say, who are you? You're not going to reply yes or no. But if I say to you, are you the teacher? Or are you the student? Then you reply yes or no. So this and hal is translated many different ways into English. This is to the rules of the English language. But in Arabic, and hal is used primarily to ask a question to somebody where you expect a yes or no answer. We are familiar with this sentence, huwa talibun, he is a student. Now to convert that to a question, is he a student? Very easy. I put a in front. Ahuwa talibun. Is he a student? How will I reply? I will say, na'am, yes, huwa talibun. Or I will say, la, huwa muallimun. No, he is a teacher. And that's how easy it is. So you have your nominal sentence, simply put a in front and it will become a question. So all those pronouns that you've learned, all those sentences that you've been learning with me, you can simply put a or hal in front in most cases and ask this question. Ahuwa muslimun? Is he a Muslim? Ahuwa salihun? Is he pious? Anta muallimun? Are you a teacher? Okay, or for example, antum muslimun? Are you all Muslims? Very simple to ask questions. Just put a in front of your nominal sentence. It does not matter masculine, feminine, whatever. You just simply add a. You can also use hal. Hal and a are almost exactly the same in meaning. They do exactly the same thing. So you have two options. And anta hamidun. You are hamid. Very easy sentence. But if I want to ask you, hal anta hamid? Are you hamid? You say, naam, ana hamid. Yes, I am hamid. Or you'll say, la, ana, whatever your name is, ana zaidun. And that's how easy they are used. So please note, a or hal, put them in front of the nominal sentence and you've got a question. Very simple, and you answer yes, na'am, la, no. In Arabic, if I said al-kitabu mufidun, it means the book is beneficial, meaning I'm talking about a book which I'm trying to encourage you to read, and I said the book is beneficial. Al-kitabu mufidun. But if you wanted to ask me, is the book beneficial, you put hal in front. Hal al-kitabu mufidun. Now we have a problem. What the problem that we have is that hal ends with a sukun, and also the lam ends with a sukun. So therefore, we have the clash of the two sukuns. Again, the problem we've come across before. How do you solve this problem? Generally speaking, the rule is as follows. The letter on the last letter before, when the clash happens, so this is the first letter, the first word, and this is the second word. So the last letter on the first word will take a kasra. And that's the general rule. And we read this as Halil kitabu mufidun. Is the book beneficial? So please note that because of the clash of two sukuns, hal will take a kasra. And you'll see that again and again. I'll point them out until you get used to the idea that there is a change in the word last letter. Why? Because we can't read it. And in order to facilitate the reading, we have to make some changes. So note the changes at the end of hal when the clash of two sukuns happens. Let's learn one more for asking question. Man. Man means who. So for example, if I want to ask you, who is he? I will say, man huwa, who is he? And you'll reply, huwa talibun, he is a student. Or you can say, huwa hamidun, he is hamid. So you can see how we can now start using the sentence structures we've been learning so far. Man huwa, who is he? Huwa talibun, he is a student. Huwa hamidun. Of course, you can make your own variations now that you know the rules. You can make hundreds of sentences yourself, inshallah ta'ala, using this simple formula that I'm sharing with you. If I ask you, man anti, I'm talking to a sister, I say, who are you? She can reply simply to me, ana muallimatun, I am a teacher. Or she can say, ana Fatimatu, I am Fatima. So you can see how it's used. Of course, if I ask a brother, man anta, who are you? He say, ana talibun, I'm a student, ana muallimun, etc., ana muslimun, etc., etc., etc. So very, very simple, inshallah ta'ala. We are now in a situation we can start using what we have learned. If we don't use it, we're going to lose it. If I wanted to ask you, who's the teacher? I will say in Arabic, man al-muallimu. But I can't read the two words together. Why? Because of the clash of the two sukuns. We have again the two sukuns clashing. So what is the solution? Simply put a kasra on the first end of the first word, and we end up with manil muallimu. And that is the standard that you need to remember. It's usually kasra. There are some exceptions. I've shared one with you already. So manil muallimu, who is the teacher? Again, note the change I'm making to the end of the word. And now we have the wa. Wa is very, very important, very frequently used in Arabic. It has other meanings in Arabic and other uses. Inshallah ta'ala, in 2 lessons time, you'll start seeing others. But for now, wa is the most common use, means and. So I can use it this way. For example, I can say big and new. Kabirun wa jadidun. Anta wa ana, you and I. Huwa wa, hiya, he and she, etc. I can also use it for 2 nouns also. For example, Hamidun wa Zaidun, Hamid and Zaid. I can also use it al-muallimu wa talibu. So the 2 parts can be joined here, the teacher and the student. So this is how it's used in English, and it's almost identical in the Arabic language. Wa is very frequently used in the Quran, so you need to note this. It simply means and. You may have already known this already, that all it is joining 2 things together. Let us put to practice some of the things we have learned so far. Here, I'm not going to pause the video and go that way because it'll take too long, but you have text here on your right-hand side. What I'd like you to do is pause the video yourself as I'm going through and answer, translate from Arabic to English, which should be relatively easy for you from what you see on the screen. I'll go through the answers and you should be able to recognize what's going on within them, inshallah. So, Hamidun muallimun. I hope you can recognize that. Hamid is a teacher. Wa Zaidun talibun. And Zaid is a student. The next one I have al-masjidu saghirun wal madrasatu kabiratun. Saghirun, you should remember, means small. So what do we have here? Translate. The translation is the mosque is small and the school is big. Next we have huwa talibun wa anta muallimun. Very easy. Translate. Answer is he is a student and you are a teacher. Next, huma muallimatani wa antuma mu'minani. Please check it carefully. Translate. They too are teachers. You, dual, are believers. Hum mu'minuna wa hunna salihatun. Careful. Look at it. Translate. They are believers and they are pious. Please note the masculine, feminine. And I hope by now you're now of a realization that there is a lot of detail in the Arabic text as compared to what you see in the English, because the 2 languages are different. In English, we need lots of additional bits to give a more precise and exact translation. But this is the general idea. Alhamdulillah, I hope you can see that there is a lot of depth that we cannot translate if we just do a simple translation like I have done. That's the end of the practical session. I hope and pray that you have benefited from what we have shared with you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you abundantly for your intention and your desire to learn Arabic, to understand Quran. Thank you, and from the bottom of my heart, I'm really grateful for all the kind comments and suggestions that I've been receiving through the comment section and otherwise. May Allah bless you in this dunya and in the hereafter. I just hope and pray that whatever we're producing for you is of benefit and you are learning. Please remember us in your du'as, inshallah ta'ala. And again, I thank you from the depth of my heart for your kindness. I look forward to seeing you in lesson number 6. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
الذي علم بالقلم